Hey everybody, welcome back. It has been temperatures over 100 for the last few days here in New England, and we decided today we were going to stay inside and work on some projects. So today I'm going to use this old cat food can to make a buddy burner or a hobo candle stove. So this is a fairly simple project. I used to do this with the Boy Scouts, and all you need is an old cat food or tuna fish can. You're going to need some unscented wax, and I'll talk about why unscented is important in a little bit. A container to melt your wax, some corrugated cardboard, a cover that'll fit your can. In this case, I'm using a dog or cat food cover, and either a pair of scissors or a knife, something that you can cut your cardboard into strips with. So let's get these things that I'm not going to use right away out of the way, and we'll get started. Before we get started on making ours, I wanted to show you one that we've had and used, but it still has a lot of life back in it. Now you see I've got a cover on this. If I take the cover off, you can see inside it's black. It's still got quite a bit of wax, and it's still got quite a bit of life left to it. Now, the reason that we use a cover on our cans is with the wax in there, if you're taking this with you camping, putting it in a backpack, taking it on a hike, you want to make sure this is sealed in well. So if this gets really hot, you don't end up with wax melting into your backpack and all over the rest of the things you have with you. So a nice tight cover works really great. So the first thing that we're going to get started with is we're going to take this corrugated cardboard and we're going to cut it into strips that are going to be the height of our can, or actually just about to the inside of this lip inside the can. And I'm going to get started with that, and as soon as I have those strips cut, I'll be right back. Well, I cut up 4 strips of cardboard. Now for anybody who's a stickler for math and you want to make sure that you know exactly how wide you want to cut these, you can just take your ruler, put it in. This was about 1.5 inches from the bottom of the can to the edge of this lip. Depending on the type of can you're using, it might be slightly different. For me, the great thing that worked out was these strips are about the same width as my ruler, so I was able to use that as my straight edge for getting these cut out. Now the next step is going to be to take my strips, and then I'm just going to slowly start as tight as I can, and I'm just going to roll these up. Now, the thicker your corrugated cardboard, the harder it is just to get this started, but it's really not that bad. And the reason you want to use corrugated cardboard and not just plain flat cardboard is because these little holes that are between the layers of your corrugated cardboard are where your wax is going to absorb in when we put in the wax. So I'm just going to roll this. And if you're thinking that's no way near long enough, you're absolutely correct. I'm just going to roll this up, roll it up, and roll it up. And when I'm just about at the end with this, and I used to have my kids help me with this part, I'm going to take the end of another one. I'm just going to lay it over the top, and I'm just going to continue, get that pulled tight. I'm just going to continue to roll these two together. So there we go. I'm just going to keep rolling and rolling, and I'm keeping it nice and tight, as tight as I can, so that I can fit it into the can. Here we go. Roll some more. And eventually this is going to be about the same size as the can. So measure every now and then. See, I still have a little ways to go. I'm probably not even going to need all 4 of these. So I'm going to unroll this a little bit, take the next piece, tightly roll that in. Let's get that rolled around, up and around. Let's see how close we are for size. That's probably going to be about it. So I'm going to rip this cardboard off. I'm going to squeeze this as tight as I can. And then we're just going to take the can, we're going to take our cardboard, and we're going to see if I can squish this into the can. If I can't, I can always take a little more off that end that I added it on. Let's give this a good press, push. And if your hands are having a hard time with this, you can always use a screwdriver or something to try to get this pressed in. Almost there. And there we go. And once it gets in the can, it's going to loosen up a little bit because of this lip. But that's the first part. This is all done. And you can see all the holes in the cardboard. And the next step is for us to melt some wax. And then we're going to pour the wax into here. So let's get cutting some wax up and get it in our pot. A couple of quick notes before I start cutting up some wax. I forgot to mention, if you have any stickers or tape on your cardboard, you want to make sure you peel that off first, because we don't want to be burning those when we're burning our candle. And the other thing I had mentioned about using unscented wax. Now, the reason we feel unscented wax is important is because sometimes in an emergency, these candles are going to be used for warming up food. And I don't want to get the smell from a scented candle into my food. So we prefer to use unscented candles. Now, you can pick up unscented wax in a lot of different places. Yes, you can purchase it online, or you can look out at your neighborhood Goodwill or thrift store, see if somebody donates a big candle. Like this was a nice long one, about like this. It had a whole bunch of wicks in it. We just pulled the wicks out, and we've been cutting pieces off of it for different projects for quite a while. And there's enough wax here that we'll be doing it for a while more. So let me get this wax cut up, get it into my pot, and then we'll head over to the stove to melt our wax. Well, I got a whole bunch of the wax cut up into little chips. It's in my pot. I've got a piece of fat wood that I'm going to use to stir it, because I really don't care if it gets wax on it. Let me get this over to the stove, get it melted, and I'll be right back to get it poured into our candle. Well, my wax is melted, and it's time to pour it into our can. So this is where that corrugation comes in handy with the cardboard, because as I'm pouring this wax in, it's getting in between the bits, pieces, and parts, and you want to fill it till it comes just about to the top, and this is almost full. Have a little bit of wax left. I'm just going to put that aside, and then I'll put that back onto that block that I started with, and I'll have it to use next time. All right, so now I'm going to quickly grab a pair of needle nose pliers, and I'll show you why. Now, I should have done this before I put the wax in, but because I forgot, I'm going to do it now. So I'm going to be really careful. I'm going to use my stick to hold down the top of my can, and I'm going to reach in, because I didn't use a wick. I'm just going to grab the very center of this. I'm going to hold the other cardboard, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of a lift. Give that a pull, so that the center is going to be a little bit higher than what's around it, and it's going to make it a little bit easier for me to light this. There we go. So it has a slight raise in the middle. It's going to make it easier for me to get that lit with a match later. Now, it's going to take a while for this to cool, because this is very, very hot. Just a caution, don't try to pick this can up with your bare hands. Make sure you're using gloves if you're going to move it. I don't have to worry. I don't have any little ones running around, so I'm going to let this sit for a little while. Once this is cool, I'll be back and show you how I use it. Now that this has had a chance to cool, and I can hold it without burning my fingers, it's nice and solidified so the wax doesn't pour out. Like I said, this is great to use as a candle. It does radiate off some heat. You want to make sure you put your cover on it before you put it in your bag. And that'll help if your bag gets hot so your wax doesn't get in there. Now, you can, like I said, also in an emergency use this for cooking, but the heat isn't going to be a real high heat as if you're burning with an alcohol or wood. But in an emergency, in a pinch, it's better than not having anything. And it can be used in a variety of different stoves. So I'll go over some of our favorite ones to use it in. One thing to always remember, because when you light this, the can is going to get hot, is you want to make sure that this is placed on a non-combustible surface. So on a rock or on some other kind of a stand before you light it. Now, first, a simple way, if you wanted to put like a cup of water on it, you could create a simple pot stand out of a piece of rabbit wire just like Steve uses on some of his, like this, and then put your pot on top. That'd be a super simple way. It also fits, I have another one here inside of Steve's favorite stove, which is the Lexata stove. This is just a super simple sterno stove, and it fits right in. You can close it up and balance your pots on top, so it would work like that. Now, keeping in mind, this inside of like the Lexata, the stove itself is going to get hot, so it is going to radiate heat. So again, make sure it's on a safe base. But if you're looking to get warmth, it's a great way to do that, as well as providing the light. And then this is my favorite stove. This is made, we call it the a.k.a. stove. If you'd like to see how it's made, let me know. And this fits perfectly right into that as well. And I have my little stands, or I could put something if it was bigger on the top of it if need be. So let me get this lit and show you what it looks like. All right, so I've got my lighter. We're gonna get this lit. Now, the nice thing, like I said, about this type of candle is that it's made from just things that you were gonna throw away. You've got your can, which is, like I said, a tuna or a cat food can. You've got your corrugated cardboard, which is probably gonna go into recycling anyway. And then I used just some plain wax that we had. Now, you could use any kind of wax in a pinch. You could even use broken up melted crayons, or something like a Crisco shortening would even work, because people do make emergency candles out of cans of shortening. So there's a little bit of everything you can do with this. It's going to burn for quite a while. The whole purpose of your wax is to lengthen the amount of time this is going to burn. If we were just burning the corrugated cardboard, it would go up really quick. So you have this burning. You've got some nice light, as you can see, that comes off of that. After a little while, it's going to get warm. If you needed to, you could warm your hands on it. Or like I said, you could use it for cooking. So if you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up. If you've ever made these, make sure you leave a comment on if there's anything different that you do or how you use them. Make sure that you like and subscribe. I'm just gonna blow this out real quick. And until next time, everybody, take care.